History isn't just written in books. It's poured into glasses, passed around taverns, whispered over bar counters, and sipped through revolutions. And if history has proven anything, it's that people have always loved a good drink. Welcome to History in a Glass. I'm Josh, your guide on this tipsy time machine of history. Now, I may not be a professional bartender or historian, but I've always been curious about what it would have been like to live in the past. The stories, the struggles, the experiences, and of course, the drinks. Each episode on this channel will dive into the favorite drinks of historical figures, uncover the stories behind them, and most importantly, actually make the drinks to see what they taste like. So to kick off this channel, we're starting a 10-episode journey from 1776 to the Roaring 20s, mixing up the cocktails that shaped history along the way. So grab your glass, follow along, and let's sip our way through time. And since this is our first episode in that journey from the American Revolution to Prohibition, it's only fitting that we start with an American first, George Washington. The man may have been a great general, but he was also a guy who knew how to enjoy a stiff drink. Today, we're making Cherry Bounce, one of his favorites. We'll also mix up a Stone Fence, a drink that supposedly helped fuel the revolution. So grab your ingredients, follow along, and let's drink some history. Let's kick things off with George Washington and his favorite homemade liqueur, the Cherry Bounce. Now, Washington wasn't just the father of our country. He was a farmer, a general, and let's be honest, a guy who knew how to throw back a drink or two. What do you think Washington packed for his long journeys? Water? Coffee? Nope, it was Cherry Bounce. It's the 1770s, and Washington is preparing for a trip to New England. But instead of bringing a practical beverage, he loads up his canteen with this sweet, strong cherry liqueur, something he even noted in his journal. Because when you're traveling rough roads, dealing with political drama, and founding a nation, you deserve a drink. Now, Cherry Bounce takes patience. Historically, this drink is aged from 4 to 6 weeks to let the flavors fully develop. Washington's own version likely sat for at least a month before he packed it for his journeys. The longer it sits, the smoother it gets. But look, I get it. We don't have a month to wait for a drink. So while I'm going to show you the proper historic method, I'll also give you a modern shortcut that gets you pretty close in just about 2 weeks. If we followed Washington's full-scale recipe, we'd end up with about 6 to 7 gallons of Cherry Bounce, enough to supply a good portion of Mount Vernon. But since we're keeping things manageable, here's how to make a small batch. First, we start off with a pound of cherries. Colonial America flavored Morello cherries, but any tart variety works. I'm using Montmorency cherries. Fresh or frozen will do, just make sure they're pitted. We also need a cup of sugar, 3 cups of brandy, 1 cinnamon stick, a half a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg, and 3 to 4 whole cloves. Historically, the brandy used at the time was likely French cognac or another imported variety, as domestic distillation was still developing. I'm using Ferrand 1840 cognac because it closely resembles what Washington would have had. If you don't have Ferrand 1840, a good quality cognac or aged brandy will work. Budget-friendly options include Hind Rare VSOP or Maison Rouge VSOP, both offering similar smoothness and complexity. Step 1, we're going to toss our cherries, sugar, and blending spices into a big jar. We'll give it a stir and wait until the sugar starts drawing out the cherry juice. Step 2, we're going to drown them in brandy, and then we'll seal it tight and give it a good shake. The spices will infuse over time, enriching the liqueur with warm, aromatic flavors. Step 3, we need to store it somewhere dark, preferably not next to the gunpowder. Every couple of days, shake the jar again to keep things moving. Of course, we don't have 2 weeks to wait, so I've got a pre-made batch that I made a couple weeks ago. Now, let's strain this out into a fine mesh strainer or cheesecloth. Here we're going to separate the liqueur from the cherries and spices we put in. Make sure to press lightly to get all that infused brandy goodness. Once strained, pour it into a glass, and we'll see what made this drink one of George Washington's favorites. Cheers. Wow, that's dangerously smooth. Sweet, rich, with a bite just sharp enough to remind you that it isn't juice. This is exactly the kind of thing you would want if you were planning to cross an icy river in the dead of night for a surprise Christmas attack on the British. No wonder Washington kept it in his travel stash. After sipping a bit of history with Washington's cherry bounce, let's move to a drink that helped fuel bold decisions and played a more direct role in shaping history: the stone fence. This one is simple, but it has a serious Revolutionary War connection. Picture a bunch of rowdy frontiersmen in a candlelit Vermont tavern, slamming back drinks before deciding, half drunk and fully confident, to storm a British fort. That's the stone fence for you. It's said that Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys knocked back a few rounds of these before they stormed Fort Ticonderoga in 1775. Now, was that the best practical decision? Probably not. But did it give them confidence to charge in and take over a major British stronghold? Absolutely. There are a few versions of this recipe out there, but we're sticking with the early colonial version. So let's bring this historic drink to life. We'll need 5 ounces of hard cider. Go with something dry and crisp. We'll also need 2 ounces of dark rum. Colonial ciders were typically drier and more robust than modern commercial varieties due to natural fermentation methods and a lack of refined sugar. Using a dry cider stays true to history while balancing the drink's sweetness. To match a historical flavor, I'll be using the Stormalong dry cider. It's naturally fermented and made with heritage apple varieties, similar to the ciders in colonial America. Other great options would include Samuel Smith's organic cider, Strongbow dry cider, or Angry Orchard's unfiltered for a more rustic character. In colonial America, rum was a staple, often imported from the Caribbean and made from molasses, resulting in rich, full-bodied flavor. I'll be using Privateer Navy Yard rum, a pot-distilled, unfiltered American rum that closely mirrors 18th century styles. If you're following along at home and need an alternative, Plantation Original Dark, Hamilton 86 Demerara, or Smith & Cross are excellent substitutes that captured the bold historical flavor. So we're going to start by filling a glass with ice. Next, we'll pour the 2 ounces of rum. And then we top it off with the cider. We then give it a quick stir. And that's it. No frills, no fuss. Just a drink with a history as bold as its flavor. Cheers. That's the kind of drink that makes you think you can take on an empire. It's bold, it's smooth, and it's just reckless enough to work. So there you have it. 2 drinks that give us a taste of colonial America, from Washington's cherry bounce to the stone fence that might have helped fuel a revolution. These cocktails prove that history isn't just something you read about. You can actually drink it. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next deep dive into the boozy past. Until then, cheers. Here's to history, messy, boozy, and full of surprises. Until next time, drink responsibly, or at least drink historically.